guys, welcome in the chat today.
I can't see you, DJ. Good morning and welcome everyone to my daily mental health stream. My name is Doña, aka Doña the Light, and your name is DJ, my wonderful son, aka moderator.
Don't forget to say hi to me.
Of the chat. Well, yeah, but no one's here yet. All right, first and foremost, this stream is sponsored by me, myself and I, and my Etsy shop. So buy some stuff, okay? Mental health focused clothing and healing jewelry by myself. I have hand wrapped and created some pendants, some rings. I have more, but I just need to post them. And then I have a bunch of other designs that I've created myself. Shirts and hoodies and t-shirts and hats and wall art and mugs and tumblers and journals and totes and hoodies and crop tops and stickers and all kinds of cool stuff. So, shop link will be here in the chat, and it will also be in the description of this YouTube video. If you are catching this replay on YouTube, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and give this video a thumbs up like. Those are both simple, great ways to support my channel. Today we're talking about self-worth, and I have my wonderful, wonderful friend Diana here with us today. She just keeps coming back, y'all. I think we're friends. I think...
Yeah. You can't get rid of me. I'm just going to be here.
We might be friends, yeah.
Before we jump in, I just want to put a little plug in, y'all. These hoodies are super cozy. I am in, like, -degree weather, and I am very warm and toasty in this hoodie. It's very comfortable, so I recommend it. They are great. Get that merch, y'all. Get that merch.
Purchase the merches. And this is the Choose You Before Life Starts Lifing hoodie. It is embroidered. Okay, y'all? Embroidered.
Yes, it's beautiful embroidery work.
It's wonderful.
Beautiful.
It's wonderful. So, yeah, let me put the shop link in the chat real quick, and then we'll dive into our conversation. Yes, DJ.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, once people start showing up. All right, so first and foremost, Diana and I have been looking through this article on positive psychology, which I will also post in the chat. The wonderful thing about this article is that it not only talks about self-worth, but it talks about self-value, self-confidence, self-esteem, all the other self-words that we probably have never really had, well, have very little tangible explanation about. So it's really interesting to see. DJ, no one's there yet. Yes, there's no one there yet. As soon as someone pops in, you can type, but there's no one there yet, okay? Yeah, I think it's great that we have tangible ways to differentiate all of the selves. So yeah, Diana, if you want to get us started with the self-worth and the self-value and some of the other self-words.
Yeah. So as you were talking about, this article, I think, really outlines these things really nicely. I don't think that it's something that we really stop and think, gosh, we really is going to go drop there. Okay, so I don't think it's something that we think about very often, right? Like we hear, self-worth, self-love, self-esteem, self-care, very, all over the place. Like it is all over the place. You can't really turn around or throw a stone without hearing those words. But taking the time to understand what each of them means, I think, is important. One of the things that I really liked about this article was just, it jumps in by really breaking down the difference between self-worth and self-value, which I don't know that I've actually, again, like I was telling you just before we hopped on, like, I don't think I've ever really taken the time to understand those differences. And so it takes the definition of self-worth from Merriam-Webster, talking about, basically it's a feeling that you are a good person who deserves to be treated with respect. Whereas self-value is more of a behavioral, is more behavioral than it is emotional. So it's more so the things that you engage in to show love to yourself, essentially, or show value to yourself. So the same way that we, take care of our car, take care of our clothes, because these are things that we value. Care of ourself is also the way that we show self-value. And so that's the first thing that this article jumps into, is just differentiating between what your worth is, which is just knowing that you are deserving of love, respect, and you consider yourself a good person, versus treating yourself that way. And essentially, making sure that others treat you that way as well. So yeah, I really love the beginning of that, and then it segues from there into self-worth versus self-esteem, uh, which I think is also something that we get easily mixed up. And so it's a lot of times the way that they break this down in the article is saying that like self-esteem is what we think and feel and believe about ourselves, where self-worth is recognizing that I'm greater than all of those things, right? It's a deep knowing that I am of value, I am lovable, necessary to this life, and of incomprehensible worth. I love that. That's a little quote taken straight from the article. And I love the way that it puts that, because again, it really emphasizes the importance of understanding I almost mixed it up and saying your value as a human, but your worth as a person, not just a term.
Right.
Your worth as a person, just as you are, a human being, just being in this world, without any other qualifications for that. And yeah, so I think that is just a really great way to open up this conversation and to really understand those differences is, again, I think something that's really can be just really helpful, not only for our conversation, but in moving forward and trying to really nail down these different things for ourselves.
I agree. And I even just that first little tidbit of self-worth versus self-value and the way that the article describes it. First of all, y'all, they got citations in this article, okay? I'm a sucker for citations after going to school for 1,000 years. It hasn't been 1,000 years. But just recognizing the importance and accessibility and the ability for things to not just be written on people's opinions. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to write something and say, this is an opinion piece, this is how I feel. And typically the things that we feel, can be backed up by fact and whatever. But when we're talking about things like this, like self-worth, self-value, self-esteem, to hear not only the dictionary definition, but also, other articles and things like that support this definition, it's really helpful. So I just want to pause and have y'all think about, what Diana just shared as far as the difference between self-worth and self-value. Self-worth is described as what you are worthy of. So this goes into, again, like Diana mentioned, what you will accept from others. Whereas self-value, I think the analogy of, when you value your vehicle, how do you treat it? You keep up with its regularly scheduled maintenance. You keep up its aesthetics. You make sure it not only looks good, but it smells good too. Yes, DJ.
What would how to sleep?
She said, how did you sleep, DJ? That's the question for you? No, not how did you sleep like on a pillow. Did you sleep well or did you not sleep well?
I did sleep well.
Okay. But
I sleep well.
You slept well? Okay. But yeah, when it comes to value, what are the things that you actively do that illustrate to yourself that you value yourself? That you value.
What maintenance are you performing on yourself?
Right. What maintenance are you performing on yourself in the different aspects of us as humans? Like what kind of physical maintenance, what kind of emotional maintenance, what kind of mental maintenance, what kind of nutritious maintenance, I guess.
Spiritual maintenance.
Nurture. What kind of food maintenance have you provided? You know what I mean? Like what kind of hydration? Yeah, nutrient maintenance. What kind of hydration maintenance? What kind of maintenance have you provided or done on yourself? And when you put it that way, it kind of sounds overwhelming. But
yes.
I believe that those different types of maintenance actually overlap. I definitely feel like when you are providing hydration maintenance and nutrition maintenance to yourself, you're also providing some sort of mental maintenance, because you can think more clearly when you are hydrated and your belly's full. I also believe that you think more clearly after you eat something that you enjoy. So I feel like that also goes into, your emotional maintenance, depending on what it is that you're eating. Oh, bless you. But yeah, so I think those things overlap. I don't believe that each one is specifically, there's actions in each one that don't cross over into the other pie, of maintenances. But yeah, and then if you could, I wanted to look at the article on my phone, but it has been stolen.
Oh, good.
If you could dive more into how the article shared, or just your personal experience of the self worth versus self esteem.
Yeah, so I'll start first with the article because that's just less vulnerable. Um, so it was talking about essentially how esteem is how you think and believe about yourself, whereas value is recognizing that you're like what the quote said, like you are greater and above all of those things. Like you are essentially you are greater than the sum of your parts is how I'm taking that, right? And so yeah, I think it kind of goes on to say that our esteem gets, or at least the way that I'm kind of thinking about this is our esteem and our worth get very entangled,
Mm-hmm.
um, and we tend to have like so what we typically no what some folks let me not say typically what some folks base their self esteem on are all completely external things, right? So it can be based on the job they have, the money they're making or not making, their social status or lack thereof, right? So appearance, their um, relationship status, their competition, whatever. Like they can base it on all these things external of themselves, which if you are, um, if you're a superstar and doing all these great things for a certain amount of time, your esteem is going to be up there because that's what you're basing it on
Mm-hmm.
all these positive things. But what goes up must come down. So the moment you experience one failure or one shortcoming, one time you fall short of something, your entire self-esteem and your self-worth, because they're so connected at this point, completely plummet. And you're like, well, I'm worthless. I'm not good for anything. I'm no, it just becomes a very negative spiral because you've attached your worth and your esteem to these things external of you that don't actually contribute to your worth.
Right.
Um, and so yeah, I think in just in my own experience, just being a lifelong learner, forever in school, um, I could definitely relate to the achievement aspect, right? Like I've always prided myself on being a very um, just academically minded student, high achieving, trying to make sure that I do the best that I can do. Um, and going back to that same example I was just giving, like you can do really great, and then if you base your life on that and you have one setback, it
Mm-hmm.
can be very detrimental. And I went a long time in my academic career before I was hit with one of those types of setbacks where it was like, oh, wait, what? And
Right.
it was very jarring. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is it? Do I even know who I'm supposed to be right now? Like, it was very just like, hold on,
Yeah.
what is actually happening here? And it took some time and some conversations with some really close friends. Like, wait a minute, no, what am I actually experiencing here? Okay,
Right.
this is a setback due to circumstances outside of my control.
Mm-hmm.
Some were also within my control, but it was both um, and then yeah, just really evaluating like what does this actually mean? Okay, this just means that you might have to spend a little bit extra time in this program, or you might spend a little bit more effort on this project, um, as opposed to you are less worth, you're worth less than you thought you were,
Mm-hmm.
because my identity as a student was threatened at that point, and so it's like, oh my goodness, what do I do with this?
Right.
And so yeah, learning to detach my worthiness from my academic performance is something that I'm still learning to do. To be honest, like it's not an easy. I don't think it's an easy fix, right? We, however many years you've been on this planet, you have spent that many years building these habits, and so it's going
Right.
to take some time to unlearn those things, right? Which I think I've probably said that in almost every stream we've done this far, but yeah. So I feel like it's just. I think it's very easy for us to get those things tied together, and so that's why I really appreciate this article differentiating between those things to really understand how to bolster each. You can bolster your self esteem and your self worth
Mm-hmm.
simultaneously and separately because they are technically separate entities. Um, or you know what I mean. But yeah, so I'm talking a lot. So Ted, yeah,
I appreciate you so much for sharing that. The self work and the achievement, especially academic achievement, because I know for a fact that is one of the earliest things that we are forced and coerced and almost demanded to do almost as soon as we grace this planet, as early as
hmm
5 years old. we are being pushed to achieve academically.
Mm-hmm.
And only academically in the way that, our school system supports it. Not academically in any other way outside of that spectrum, right?
No.
Only to receive A's, even B's are like pushing in, only to receive, 90 to 100% on everything, to excel in everything that you're presented. Because if you're not, then you're not trying. You're just not doing enough. You must not be paying attention. And immediately it goes to where you are lacking. It takes so much time for us to have conversations with, about education, with students and parents, where it's not based on where the student is lacking, but instead based on, well, what can we shift? What can we change? Because, and it's, the most nerve-wracking part about it is it's like, everyone says out loud, everyone learns differently. And yet we look at the educational system and it's like, but you're all going to learn this way. And this is how we're going to praise you. This is how we're going to praise you. Here's the cookie cutter way that we're going to present education and learning and teaching and everything. And if you don't get it, then there's got to be something wrong with you. We know for a fact, it's not a like a question. It's not this mystical thing. Well, maybe people learn differently. It's a possibility. No, it is a fact that humans learn. Yes, research supported, and research is constantly and consistently being done to continue to support this fact. But I mean, that goes into a whole other conversation about why our society moves the way that it does, and we pride ourselves on doing research. That's one of the things that we typically say when we're trying to prove something is this is backed by research, but we don't move in that way. Yes, TJ.
Jones didn't say hi to me.
Hi, Jones. Good morning. DJ is waiting for his very specific hello. Also, Spudwich said hello to you, Diana. And DJ did too in the chat. But yeah, I feel that. And it's just, it's a lot. I mean, and I feel that depending on whatever your role is, oftentimes your worth is attached to that, Your worth is attached to, your role as a daughter, your role as a mother, your role as a student, your role as an employee. And very rarely are we ever just not encouraged, but reminded, like, hey, you're a wonderful person. Well, why would you say that? Well, you just are. You just exist. It's not because you donated $1 million to homeless children. You're just a wonderful person, just because. And again, this goes back to the conversation that we were having the other day. Lincoln and Grover were talking about how we were talking about pride. And, if it's wrong to have pride, what is the solution?
And what do you do? Yeah, what do you have?
So we talked about, moving through this world with dignity, and essentially dignity is very closely related to self-worth. But we were talking about how all this competition and all this stuff is really what drives people's behavior instead of, the desire to support your community, for example. I mean, the Nobel Peace Prize and Oscar awards and all of these things that we strive so hard to achieve. But the fact of the matter is, whoever got that Nobel Peace Prize was hopefully going to be doing whatever research or whatever it is that they were doing, regardless of the award.
Right.
If that was their only driving factor, are they just going to completely not exist after they achieve the award? After they get that award, then what?
Like, does the work stop? Are we done?
Read it. Yeah, exactly. Are we just going to stop, trying to find a cure for cancer?
Right. That's literally the example I was going to give, and I stopped myself.
Right. Like,
yeah.
Because you achieve, you got the award, and all right, take my hat off, take my lab coat off, I'm retiring. That's it.
I'm done.
Good luck. Right. Good luck, rest of the world, and all the other cancers that we haven't found cures for. Good luck.
I hope that's not what's driving people, because we're screwed.
Exactly.
We are totally screwed if that's what it is.
Exactly. when
But so much of what we do is contingent upon evaluation,
yes,
reward
yes,
of some sort, you know.
that's good.
And so, yeah, so the things that we're talking about, like, it's not easy to separate yourself from these things because
Yeah.
it is an effortful, like a concerted effort to challenge these things, and to challenge these thoughts that you have, or the inner critic or the inner voice you have that's telling you that you're not worthy, or that
Exactly.
you didn't get that A, so you're no good, or you're not good enough, or XYZ is better than you, or whatever it is that negative Nancy wants to tell you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. And so it's up to us. I mean, the constant question always becomes, how do we change the world?
Hmm. Yeah.
And the answer is pretty much always going to be we have to begin with ourselves.
Hmm.
When was the last time that we had a conversation with someone in which we praised them or thanked them or expressed appreciation, gratitude, etc., and it wasn't based on what they've done for us?
Hmm.
It wasn't based on, you know, the advice that they gave us, or it wasn't based on the gift that they purchased us, or it wasn't based on whatever. We just said thank you. Thank you for being a part of
Thanks
my
for being
life.
you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for just existing
Hmm.
in a place where I can know you and meet you, and we speak the same language.
Hmm.
Where we
You
can
have to share your energy like that. Just thank you.
exactly. And
Thank you.
I've
Hmm.
had people say that to me before, um, that they are grateful for my energy. Bless
Hmm.
you. And I'm very aware of, my impact on people, regardless of where I go. Um, like I remember I went to the grocery store. This was a couple months ago, and there was this gentleman standing over by the pastries, and I was like, "Ooh, pastries!" And then he shared something. Like he asked me if he could say something, or he asked me a question. I said, "Sure, go ahead." And he said, "Yada yada yada," and I said, "Yada yada yada," and then he said, "All right, cool. Thank you for listening." And I thought, no one has ever thanked me just for, engaging in a short conversation with them. And it wasn't like anything miraculous. It wasn't like he
Right.
was expressing like, oh my goodness, my mother has cancer. Nothing heavy, nothing deep. It was a very surface conversation. But he said, hey, thank you for listening. And I said, it's my pleasure. It's really no problem. And I can't think of how many times I have small conversations like that with people.
Right.
And I rarely ever think to thank them, for their time or just
Mm.
for listening. I feel like thank you for your time is almost uh, not condescending, but you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's kind of lost its value a little bit.
It
That's
has.
funny.
It has. I mean, it has because it's very commonplace and just keep throwing about like
Yeah.
just I'm sorry, right? Like
Yeah, or like
just
at
like
the at the end of
words.
emails.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you for your. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like you're like thanking the academy or something like that. You know.
Yeah, like a
Oh.
sign off or
Okay.
something. And yeah, but again, those are things
That's
that we
a small
can,
gesture.
yeah, that we can slowly but surely begin to change in the interactions that we have with people. And even if every single person in this chat, even if the 25 people that pop through here a day started saying thank you for your time, thank you for listening, that ripple effect is real. It's absolutely real.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's worth it.
Yeah. It really
It's
is.
totally worth it.
I
Okay.
love the ripple effect. It's incredible. Um. Okay. So in this article, they have a theory of self worth, um, which I think is really interesting. This is also like kind of backed up with I think it has some citations. Anyway, but the way that they talk about it is that the level of your self worth is determined by ability, effort, and performance. And essentially, yeah, ability, effort, performance. And so these three things interact with each other to determine your level of self worth. And
Mm.
so one's ability, so I'm reading straight from the article, one's ability and effort predictably have a big impact on performance, and all three will contribute to to one's feeling of worth and value. And it goes on to say that while this theory represents a good understanding of self-worth, as we tend to experience it, it's unfortunate that we place so much emphasis on our achievements. So again, going back to that kind of competing or winning or being better than with others. Uh, Going back to what you were saying, this article says the same thing. The the place to start is with ourselves, right? Well, duh, it's self-worth, so how can we build self-worth? But duh, right? But I mean, it's taking the idea that your self-worth comes from something external of you. It does not. It is something that is built within you. And so I really, yeah, as obvious as that sounds, I think it's a really important thing, again, for to be emphasized.
Right.
Yeah, and so I think that the way that, so yeah, again, going back to like what does not determine our self-worth, right? Like your job, your abilities, your age, other people, relationships, how far you can run, your grades, the number of friends you have, your relationship status, all of these different things. None of that matters, but taking time, like, none of that matters in the grand scheme of self-worth.
Right.
Like, it matters in the world, but
yeah.
it does not matter when it comes to self-worth. And so one of the things that I think, and I know the art kind of talks about that, is like just learn yourself, learn you, as opposed to, again, because if we're so outwardly focused, we're not taking time to actually learn who we are.
Right.
Especially if we're basing our worth on our appearance or other people's thoughts and opinions of us. We're too consumed with what their thoughts and opinions are, so we're not actually focused on what we think, what we feel, what we want, what we enjoy, what we truly, honestly think and feel and enjoy and want, without considering how other people might perceive that or judge that. One of the ways that I've been trying to practice this or trying to get into this, is with shadow work, just taking time to do what they call shadow work. And it's basically like, I do it in the form of journaling, but really just taking time to get to know the parts of you that you don't really like, or that you don't, that you kind of have suppressed, pushed down, hidden from others, hidden from yourself. The characteristics about yourself that you don't want to show others.
Right.
Shine a light over there and see what that is, and get to know yourself. And in that process, learn to accept yourself. From acceptance comes love. And so, it's not a fun process. It's not fun to go into the shadows and dig through all the things that you've been avoiding and that you don't like about yourself. But it's an extremely powerful exercise that doesn't, it takes more than one time. But for instance, some of the things that, like there's, I don't know, I think I just Googled journal prompts for shadow work. But essentially it's like, what are, what are some characteristics about myself that I don't like? Or what are, oh shoot, I'm drawing a blank at the moment. But it has prompts designed to essentially help you to start shining lights on different parts of yourself that you don't like.
Right.
Or that you have hidden away in the shadows for whatever reason that might be. And so that's a really great way to start the journey to self-love and self-worth. Just because it's so easy to just say, well, you're worthy, you're a human, you're a good person, you're worthy of love and acceptance.
Yeah.
I can say that till I'm blue in the face, but that doesn't mean I'm going to actually believe those things about myself, right? Even if I'm saying them to myself. So yeah, taking the time to do the work and see who you are and learn that all of those parts of you are okay. They make you who you are. Who you are is worthy of love and acceptance, regardless of if you are good, bad, or indifferent at any and everything that you experience in your life. That does not detract from your worthiness as a person, as a human.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Randy.
And I think one of the best things about shadow work is while you are practicing this, you have the opportunity to practice showing yourself compassion. You get the opportunity to practice showing yourself unconditional love. And that tenderness that we talked about, is treating yourself like a newborn baby. Approaching things like maybe mistakes that you've made in your life that you have, again, like Diana mentioned, repressed, hidden away, put in the shadows for whatever reason. Uncovering those mistakes and addressing those mistakes. And then reminding yourself that even though I've made this mistake, first and foremost, I can't do anything about it. It has already happened. most of the time, 9 times out of 10, we need to forgive ourselves. It's more so how we feel about it ourselves, and the guilt and the shame, which another conversation about guilt and shame that we feel about that
next Wednesday.
right. The guilt and the shame that we feel about that mistake is typically what's holding us. I was talking to one of my clients, and I was telling her about holding guilt in your hand like a burning piece of coal and not knowing what to do with it. You know what I mean? And typically how it kind of in my mind illustrated was having someone remind you that you are worthy, and not that you are worthy, I'm sorry, having someone remind you that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. Everybody make mistakes. You literally have to make mistakes to be a human. You have to. You have to. Yeah, you have to make them to learn. You have to. Everyone has to make mistakes. Making mistakes does not make you a bad person. And that you are still a loving, compassionate person, even though you've made mistakes. And just allowing yourself to open up your hand, and fling that coal across the room into dirt, not into grass. And I'm just playing. Not into hay. Not into something flammable.
Not in the dry bush, please.
Right. Not here in the high desert. Don't fling it at all. But, just allowing yourself to release that burning coal out of your hand and then work on repairing that wound, because you can't just get rid of the coal. You have to repair that wound that's now in the, in the palm of your hand after holding on to that coal for so long. And that guilt just burning into you. And every time you think about that mistake, you're revisited with that pain. That pain is revisited, and you're reminded, I messed up. I did a lot of bad schnitzel when I was young. I hurt a lot of people's feelings. I made a lot of people cry, And again, the most important part to me when it comes to shadow work is, because it's based on the past, is that it already happened. Like, it already happened. There's nothing, no amount of guilt, no amount of tucking it away, no amount of hiding it, no amount of burying it is going to do anything about the fact that it already happened. Right. And because of the fact that tomorrow isn't even promised to us, to allow yourself to begin to heal from the mistakes that you made in the past is the best thing you can do for your future self, so that you don't have to walk around with all of those burn wounds, all of those pieces of coal that you're holding in your hand, so you can begin healing that wound, and go through the steps. But taking the time to do that gives you a chance to actively practice self-compassion, actively practice, unconditional love, loving yourself regardless of, regardless, because you can always make better decisions. We always have the choice to make better decisions. But if we keep feeling like, well, if I did it in the past, I'm just going to keep doing it. We're not even giving our chance. We're not even giving ourselves a chance to try and do better, to practice doing better. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's that guilt of the mistakes that we've made in the past that makes shadow work so scary. That makes us blaming ourselves for whatever happened. Even if it wasn't something that we did, it could have been something that happened to us. Either way, we feel some level of blame, some level of guilt. And that's the reason why we avoid it. Because it hurts to think about.
That doesn't feel good. None of those things feel good.
Exactly. But you can't practice self-compassion and unconditional love when things feel good. I can't. I could praise myself. You can? Tell me.
It's unconditional love.
This is true.
So what would happen is be a condition where you can't do the loving.
Oh.
Right? Hold on now. It's unconditional. So we can be loving ourselves when we're happy, sad, mad, ugly, happy. Oh, I said happy. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's unconditional. There are
when we're happy, when we're happy, and when we're happy.
I'm sad, and I'm happy. I'm just trying to manifest happiness here. Don't be mad at me.
I love it.
You know,
Okay.
I think that that's a big, that is, like, I think that, like, that's a big misconception, though, too. Like, right? Like, I have to be feeling bad to
Mm.
be self-compassionate, or I have to be, I don't know, I just love the piece of self-compassion a lot, because I think that is one of the biggest ways that we can start chipping away at these external, um, external factors that we attach to worth,
Yeah.
and really looking inward and find it within ourselves. Because, like, um, I think, as you were talking, I was thinking of this just in terms of the self compassion piece, and one of the ways that I think not only with shadow work, but also um, the exercise of just kind of like, what would you tell a friend, is really, really helpful to
Mm-hmm.
help it to get us to understand what it is, like, to get us to recognize how crappy we actually talk to ourselves,
Yeah.
um, at any given moment throughout the day, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. Like, I've caught myself, like, essentially, like, cursing myself out in my head because I misplaced something that I, like, and I'm like, wait, wow,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you're coming in really hot. Why are you going so hard? But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, I digress. The idea of, anytime that you are in, kind of a negative headspace, or you're going through something where you're like, I don't feel good about myself at this point, or I feel
Mm-hmm.
like, I've made a mistake and I'm worthless. Put yourself in the situation of being with a friend who is telling you those same things. What would you say to that friend when you go through the whole exercise of what you'd actually say to that friend, openly and honestly?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and Well, actually, I think you flip it. First, you go through, what are you telling yourself? So you identify all the negative things you're telling yourself when you've made a mistake. Then you say, okay, how would you talk to a friend in the same situation? And you look at the difference, and it's usually night and day how we would
Mm-hmm.
talk to ourselves versus how we would talk to a friend or a loved one or somebody that we cared about, a child. Um, because sometimes friends is not always the best way to do it, because not everybody is gentle with their friends. So maybe a
That's true.
child,
Yeah.
right? So, giving different options for that. But anyhow,
Mm-hmm.
finding somebody that you would be compassionate towards, how would you speak to them? Um, and again, like, identifying the differences between those two things, just like, oh, wow, okay. And then what would a friend say to you in this situation? And so really understanding
Mm.
different perspectives of the same situation, and how people might address it, or might kind of approach it, judge it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and really, it highlights really brightly the negativity that we speak to ourselves, the negative self-talk that is
Yeah.
so natural, it's automatic, and it's typically on a loop,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't recognize it because
Right.
it's just there,
Mm-hmm.
it's just part of our inner workings, and so we don't ever shine the light over there to see what we're actually saying to ourselves. And
Right.
so, I think the two pieces there, doing shadow work and having practicing self-compassion,
Mm-hmm.
are huge pieces of kind of starting this journey of really building up your own self-worth.
Absolutely.
um, yeah.
Absolutely. And as difficult as it can be for some people to hear, sitting by yourself alone in the quiet. Last
Oh,
night,
I don't like
I sent Diana a meditation. It was a tapping meditation, right? Because she had shared with me, and I was like, "Hey, try this," and I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna do it too," right? So it was right after 9 o'clock. So DJ's in bed. I put the baby down in his crib. I sat right here at this desk, turned the lights off, and I had because I don't have headphones for my cell phone. Otherwise, I would have sat somewhere else. But put my headphones on, and I put on this meditation. And literally, I have not actually sat and meditated in since my birthday. I remember vividly because I cried, and baby was on my
mm-hmm.
back, and yeah, I remember vividly. I have to sneeze. Excuse me.
What?
Thank you. Meditating on my birthday. So it's been almost a month since I've sat down and meditated. Within just seconds of me sitting down, thank you for the bless you, in this chair, just hands down, feet flat on the ground, like took 2 deep breaths and I was already instantly in meditation mode. Like it has become such muscle memory because I practiced,
Mm-hmm.
like when Grover and I first met, it was December of 2020, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He and I used to meditate daily together. We would sit literally in his room on the floor on a mattress because
Love it.
he was renting a room, and we'd wake up in the morning and we'd meditate. We always had meditation music playing or some sort of background music playing anyway. But yeah, we'd meditate and journal together regularly. Like we did it all the time. All the time.
Right.
But it became such muscle memory to me that like it doesn't take me long to get into that mode.
Mm.
But once I do, then I was able, like, these thoughts just started coming up, like me feeling fearful of, you know, and I wrote it on my story on Instagram last night, you know, feeling fearful about leaning into, you know, this journey of being a self-love coach. You know, the fear of being driven primarily by money because, you know, I gotta pay bills.
Gotta eat.
I gotta eat, you know, and not wanting that to consume me and make me get desperate, you know, where I'm like, I have to have clients. I need clients now, you know, and taking a step back and saying, you know, I'm grateful that people even trust me and that I'm able to create content in which people connect with and say, hey, you know what? I want that lady to help me. You know what I mean? But all of these things just come up and I'm like, okay. And I'm just sitting here, I'm doing the tapping exercise. And if y'all haven't tried tapping, just try it. I mean, it's just one of those kinds of things that, you know, and there's certain tapping points. There's a karate chop, which is right here on the side of your hand. And then there's above your eyes, side of your eye, underneath your nose, your chin, your collarbone, which this is my favorite spot right here, which is why I notice I always feel a deep level of calm when this guy is on my chest and I'm patting his back because I'm hitting that spot.
Yeah,
and then the other one is underneath your arm and then the top of your head. But yeah, and so I was going through the motions because the guy has you go through all your tapping spots. And then I ended up just staying on my collarbone like I always do, and I'm listening to him and he's talking and yada yada yada, and I'm just kind of in my own world. But almost instantly, you know what I mean? Once I allowed myself to just sit in silence, things just started coming up for me. You know what I mean? So a lot of times we have things that are like stuck, you know, and sometimes it is related to our self-worth. It's related to self-compassion. It's related to the way that we feel about ourselves. And we don't allow ourselves to just sit in silence and exist. Why? Because we keep telling ourselves that it's not going to work. Or we keep telling ourselves we don't have the time. I know y'all can count how many times you go hide in the bathroom, for those of us with children, or with partners, or even at work. Hide in the bathroom. If anybody asks, you're like, oh, this is going to be a big one. I got to have that Taco Bell. Give me a few minutes.
Chipotle coming back with a vengeance.
Exactly. And in all honesty, don't nobody question you?
No. And that's why everybody uses that as their escape route, because nobody can question my bodily functions.
Exactly.
So that's your escape place.
Exactly. So take that time. I mean, you could sit on the toilet with your pants down if you want, or you could, you know, leave your pants up. Whatever you got to do.
Just be in the bathroom.
Just be in the bathroom. Just be in the bathroom. That's all you got to do. Just be in the bathroom. And take a couple minutes. I mean, you could literally spend 10 to 15 minutes in the bathroom and no one is going to bother you. You know? No one. And for those of us with children, which is a whole other conversation, we need to start practicing this regularly, which maybe I'll talk about that tomorrow. Practicing these things regularly with our children so that they get used to it. You know? And Spudwick said the secret is to flush often, though. I'm so done. Backyard Garden Joe said air freshener sprays.
Courtesy flushes, you know,
right.
You know.
Just a bunch of courtesy flushes. Just a bunch. The baby's looking at me like, what did I wake up to?
Oh my gosh, you woke up to the courtesy flush.
Right. But you can stay in there for 10 to 15 minutes and you know what I really wish? I remember back in the day, our older cell phones, you used to be able to like put your phone on vibrate and it would just stay on vibrate. Like you could like press the vibrate button and it would just continuously vibrate. That would honestly be a really wonderful tool to have in those moments where you need something but you don't necessarily want to sit in the bathroom like humming or play meditation music. I mean, but most of us have AirPods or, you know, the little wireless headphones. So just bring some headphones with you. Whatever. Bring headphones. Because sometimes you just need a little background noise or a little something to help you relax. Hey, Booger Baby. But yeah, just take that time and get used to sitting with yourself. You know, without avoiding the things that come up for you. Just let it come up. You know, just and if it's too overwhelming, then set a really short timer. Give yourself 3 minutes. You know, to just sit with yourself. If you notice that, you know, 5 minutes is like way too much and too much stuff comes up, give yourself 3 minutes. And then afterwards, give yourself a hug. You know, rub your arms, rub your face, whatever kind of way, you know, comfort feels.
Like having exercise you can do like this with the hugs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, after you get through with that overwhelming moment or exercise, show yourself a little bit of love, and then just move forward. But just the more you do that, the easier it'll get. It's when we don't do it and then we dive into like some 3-hour meditation and we're over here like on the verge of a panic attack.
Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah, because all of these things are.
Do that 5 minutes, that 3 minutes. Like, acknowledge yourself.
Exactly.
Like, acknowledge that. Like, don't be like, oh, I only made it through 5 minutes. Like, no, you made it through 5 minutes.
Exactly.
Like, that's not easy to do. Like, I'm not going front. So you shared that tapping with me last night. And I was like, yeah, I'm not ready to be in my, I don't want to. I don't want to be sitting quiet with my thoughts because I know what's going to come up. And so I legit avoided it. Like, no, thank you. I'm not going to do that tonight. Maybe tomorrow.
Right. I'm good.
Fully knowing that was not, you know, I'm like, this is completely the point.
Yeah.
You're completely avoiding the point. But I'm like, yep, no, I'm not in the space to do that. And that's what, like, you know, I gave myself permission to not sit with my thoughts. That's okay, too.
Yeah.
But I also, you know, committed to myself that I would make an effort to do that in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I wasn't just because I wasn't ready to do it last night, because it did feel a bit overwhelming for me.
Yeah.
Does not mean that I can't go back and do it. And that's one thing that I think is really important when, just in terms of like emotional regulation, distress tolerance. I've been talking about this stuff a lot lately, but so it's just very much salient in my brain. But back to the skills that we're not taught. Mm-hmm. But essentially, like, yeah, we can't always just be expressing our emotions everywhere. Look at the face. Oh, sorry, you totally just distracted me. That was not fair, Doña. Like, you can't always just express our emotions how we feel them, right? Like, you can't be at your job cursing people out or crying, boo-hooing or whatever, because you're, so sometimes you've got to suppress your feelings, but the importance is going back and dealing with them. And so yeah, anywho, I said that to say, just to, again, be honest and upfront, like, yeah, not always is it a thing to you know, we're not always in a space to sit with our thoughts and just, but committing to ourselves to do so when we are in a place to do it is important, because it's work that needs to be done. You know, ignoring yourself and what you're experiencing does you no good.
Right.
And will do nobody else any good. Because, you know, as you fall apart, everybody that you were obligated to and that you were trying to take care of, as you are, you know, neglecting yourself, is going to be in trouble, because you are now you now cannot support anybody because you've fallen apart.
Absolutely.
So, you know, so yeah. Anyway, I feel like I'm just like all over the place. But yeah, it's just one of them mornings.
Yes. So I like that this article goes back and talks about, so it gives a few examples of some people who are not good at things. Like it says that, you know, Bill's not a great student. He gets B's and C's, you know. Even though he spends a great deal of time studying, he didn't get a great score on his SATs. He's an average reader, a struggling writer, and nobody's idea of a mathematician. Like, he's just... And it says, even though he wishes he had better grades, he still feels pretty good about himself. And so this is just an example of how, like Diana mentioned, Bill has detached his worth from his grades. Mm-hmm. You know, because let's be honest, like we mentioned, it's not...
It's so arbitrary. Yeah. Grades are such an arbitrary evaluation that is just...
Right.
I mean, and for all the other ways that we try to measure our worth externally. Exactly. They're very arbitrary things.
Yes. Very, very, very. And
you know,
as easy as this sounds, or as simple as this sounds, it's very simple, but it's not easy. Just because something has a small number of steps, that means it's simple, right? Simple. Cut down a tree, you get a chainsaw, you cut the tree, right? That's simple. But... to cut down a tree, like, you gotta know what type of tree, where it's gonna fall, how to do that cut. You know, there's a whole bunch of...
What angle are you cutting it at? When and where to yell timber?
Right. what could it fall on potentially? You know what I mean? It's simple,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not easy. So
Right.
even though this is very simple, the way it's described in these few examples of Bill, Marcus, and Amy,
Mm-hmm.
they all have healthy levels of self-worth, which is great. You know, I love that example. Sometimes hearing that is great. But the article goes on to say how to find self-worth and value yourself more. So building
Mm-hmm.
self-worth in adolescence says provide unconditional love, respect, and positive regard. Oh, they're breeding the dragon. And then it says give adolescents opportunities to experience success.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
again, we've spoken about this a few times. My little critters, which they're downstairs, just pretend that this is your inner it's your inner child. Okay, this is inner Doña.
Yes.
Just pretend,
Oh, there she is.
you know, that essentially we are just old adolescents. Like we sometimes we don't have the emotional maturity, quote unquote, of adults. You know, so
No,
yeah,
adults is also an arbitrary term. Nobody's an adult.
that's true. Very true. But I mean, just, you know, so treat yourself that way. Provide
Mm-hmm.
unconditional love to yourself, respect yourself, and give yourself positive regard. And then, you know, give yourself opportunities to experience success. And then it goes on to say, increasing self worth and self value in adults.
Mommy.
It says it's a bit trickier.
Mommy.
Yes, DJ.
Mm-hmm.
Raylene didn't say hi.
Well, she didn't know you were here, DJ. Everyone in the chat, please say hello to DJ. So it says first, take a look at the list of what does not determine self-worth. Okay.
Right. Job, money, status, all of those things we've been
Bank
ranting
account,
about.
all that stuff. Second, work on identifying, challenging, and externalizing your critical inner voice,
Yes.
which is exactly what Diana mentioned, you know, going through it, DJ, and doing tangible exercises. And when I mean tangible, I mean exercises that require, DJ, please quiet down. I mean exercises that require you to do actual work. Like, it's great to reflect on something, but then you need to write it down. You know, it's great to connect with something, but there has to be some sort of action afterwards. It can't just be, I sit here and I meditate and I look at my thoughts and that's it. Okay, cool. Well, I need you to identify the most challenging and criticizing, you know, whatever's yelling at you when you make a mistake or whatever. Or maybe even think back to whatever you consider your biggest mistake and then journal what comes to mind. What are you telling yourself, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, it could honestly be as tangible because, like, okay, I think about this, not to cut you off, but also cut you off. Just with the self-critic, like, because the self-critic rears its head or voice or whatever all throughout our day.
Yes.
We don't have the ability to be like, oh, let me just do. So I think, you know, it's as easy as just naming it.
Yeah.
I tell my clients the same thing with their anxiety or the things that they might be dealing with. Like, let's externalize it from you. And I think that's what this article was talking about, like externalizing your critic, the critic voice. And I love that. So name it. Give it a name, whatever you want. Like, look, Stacy, I don't need to hear your crap right now. You know, what you were saying is not accurate, so keep it to yourself, Stacy. Thank you. That's not what I call my critic, but just for instance.
But that's totally tangible.
But you know what I mean? Exactly. It creates a tangible thing where you're like, oh, hold on. No, and you're putting it outside of yourself and you're challenging it. And it's something you're doing in the moment. So it's like, yeah, I think it's an effective way to do that as well. But I love what you're saying in terms of the journaling and like tying it together, like not just letting it be just kind of a flight of fancy that just passes through and you don't actually let it resonate with you and you know, marinate it a little bit. Like let it impact you truly. And so writing it down and connecting it in that way I think is super important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it says, whenever you notice your inner critic start to fire up with criticism, make her pause for a moment. Why she gotta be her? Make them pause. Make them pause.
Make them pause. Thank you.
Right.
It could be non-binary.
Right. Right. It could be a dragon. It could be a small plushy creature.
Right? Like
with button eyeballs.
Like.
Right. Right. So ask yourself whether they have any basis in fact, whatever they are saying, whether they're being kind or not. Ooh. Whether they're being kind or not, is there any basis in fact? And this could go to like comparison. You know what I mean? Like, You look so much better than that person over there. You wear that skirt so much better than that person over there. Even if it's being quote unquote kind because it's complimenting you, is rooted in factors that need to be said.
That's not kind. That's not fully kind.
Right.
That's raising you up by putting someone else down.
Exactly.
That is not kindness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Raylene says, is action always required after reflection in order to be productive?
No. I would say no. I think reflection can be very productive just within yourself. Like, because like you were saying, just being alone with your thoughts and allowing yourself to experience the thoughts.
Yes.
Is like that practice in itself is something that is very important and impactful, right? Like, you don't have to necessarily write it down every time for it to be productive. I think just the simple fact of doing it, like you said, it builds that muscle memory. It makes it something that you do more regularly. You know, the more we do things, the more it becomes habit.
Yep.
And so yeah, so I don't think necessarily you have to write it down for it to be productive. I think just allowing yourself to do it is important. And you know, so you know how like when this is a little bit off, but like when somebody apologizes for something, but they keep doing the things they apologized for, right? So if you're reflecting on something and you don't see any changes coming from that, and you continuously reflect on the same thing, then maybe, you know, creating some tangible action to tie to that might be important.
Right.
To create some more productivity. But if you know, if you're reflecting and you're growing from that, I don't think you necessarily have to, you know, engage in the writing aspect of it, or engage in something tangible after that reflection. If it's, again, you can reflect and apply that, you know, as you move forward. So I think if you were actively applying the things that you're learning about yourself through reflection, then you're good. You know, you don't have to worry about writing things down. That's not for everybody. You know, for some people that takes them really out of the moment or of the process of being within themselves. So yeah, if it doesn't work for you, you don't have to engage in that. I don't think that's a necessary piece of it.
Right. Absolutely. I think that's very, very, I mean, one of the many things that are unique to us, you know, that you kind of have to, again, just get to know yourself. Getting to know yourself, sitting in silence on the toilet, on the turtlet, on the loo, on the loo.
Favorite places. It's one of my favorite places.
Different potty areas, okay?
It's quiet, it's peaceful. For some reason, all my best thoughts come there. It's a great place.
I think it's because
that's just my favorite place.
I think it's because a part of you knows that you're not going to be interrupted. Like, no one's going to come to your bathroom, so, excuse me, are you in there? Yeah.
And if they do, then you tell them about themselves, you know?
Right.
You have every right to tell them about themselves.
Like, you can see my feet.
It's a sanctuary.
You better leave me alone.
Colorado, I know you saw that. Come
right. Why? Anywho, yeah. And even if it's just the simple act of, I'm feeling frustrated right now. Even if that's it, even if that's all you get to once you take that break to go to the bathroom, what am I feeling? Let me just give it a name. That's all I want to do right now. I'm not trying to fix anything. I'm not trying to remove anything. I just want to give it a name. That's it. Cool. It's frustration. Got it. Now I have a better idea of what frustration feels like to me. And then maybe you come back later and you're like, you know what? That actually wasn't a frustration. I was actually feeling more, I don't know, maybe I was feeling like ostracized. Maybe my coworkers were joking and I walked in and they were like, oh no, it's nothing. You know, and so I thought it was frustration, but really I felt kind of ostracized. I felt like they were kind of pushing me out.
You felt rejected, yeah.
And maybe I felt rejected, you know? But it's okay, even if that's your only...
Pull out that feelings wheel.
Exactly. It's so big.
It is.
So many feelings.
Pull out that colorful wheel.
So many colors.
There's so many emotions.
There are. There absolutely are.
All those umbrellas.
And they're like situational, and sometimes certain ones connect more to certain people in our lives, and it's just a lot. It's a lot.
It is. But taking that time to understand that and recognize that, learning yourself again, is huge. I mean, again, that's one of the biggest things that we do in cognitive behavioral therapy.
Right.
But that is the first step. Is like, okay, let's identify and something that happened, what you thought about that, and then what you felt. Let's differentiate between your thoughts and your feelings.
Yeah.
And we're literally tracking these things to figure out what types of situations make me feel X or make me
Exactly.
think X, which then leads to whatever, right? And so
Yeah.
it's yeah.
Love
It
that.
sounds. I mean, yeah. It sounds simple, and it can be easy,
Mm-hmm.
but it takes practice.
Yep. Just saying how you felt, how something made you feel takes practice.
Mm-hmm.
Because oftentimes I'll ask people how that make you feel, and they're like, well, they were wrong. And I'm like, incorrect. That's not
That's
what I'm,
not a feeling,
that's
sweetness.
not what I'm asking
Like,
you, babe. And I'll, pause,
mm-hmm.
close your eyes, take yourself back there.
Mm-hmm.
What did you feel? And sometimes you might start off with examples. Did you feel frustrated? Did you feel angry? Maybe I'll share, and that's something that I kind of have to practice with my clients and asking, would it be helpful if I shared a couple emotions with you so that you can try and identify which one felt the closest, or would it be more helpful if I just sit here and shut up and you can just kind of come into yourself and reflect? Because because for my bonus daughter, it is very non-helpful if when she's having basically an anxiety attack, if I'm like, is this what you're feeling? Is this what you're feeling? Is this what you're feeling? She's just like, and it just makes her more anxious, But if I give her like two options, is it this or is it this?
Mm-hmm.
Then she could say, well, it's not that. I say, okay. And I go really slow. I take my time. I'm sorry. She's the opposite. If I ask her open-ended questions, that's what's overwhelming for her. Because she has no idea.
I see. Too many options to choose from.
Yes.
She needs a structured choice.
Yeah, she needs a structured choice. My mistake. Yeah, and I was doing that because I'm thinking, again, my biases and my expectations came out, and I'm like, well, she's 8 years old. She should be able to.
Yeah, tell me what you're feeling.
Yeah. Tell me what you're feeling, babe. Tell me what you're feeling. Not only was she already in a heightened state, like moving towards already in fight or flight, I'm over here asking her all these complicated questions, and she's like, So yeah, for her, right. And it wasn't that she was able to communicate to me that a structured choice would help. I just recognized how much more flustered she got when I asked her open-ended questions. And that's the benefit of working with someone with emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't know how to describe what you need, but through the power of observation and just taking your time and working with someone who can say, okay, I observed that when I said this is how you reacted. So, and I can even share that with them. Hey, I noticed that when I asked you this the first time, and I asked you an open-ended question, you seemed very flustered. It seemed difficult. This is my perception. It seemed difficult for you to name whatever. Would it be helpful if blank? Yes. Cool. Let's move forward. So hire me as your life coach. Anyways.
Shameless plug, but yeah. Well done. Well done. That was so smooth. And so, that was, you were killing me.
Hashtag link in bio. And Raylene says, sometimes I don't know if I'm healing the right way or giving the right answer. And again, it's
healing the right way?
Healing,
okay.
Healing the right way, yeah.
Ooh, I was about to jump on that one.
Right.
What? Can't nobody tell you how you're supposed to feel? Whatever you feel is what you feel. I wasn't going to pounce on you, Raylene. Okay, my bad. Healing the right way.
Healing the right way.
That was a pounce reaction, though.
Right.
Who's tell you you're healing wrong?
That Diana Mama Bear came out quick. I know, right? You know what? Honestly, if she's down, we could have a whole conversation about Raylene's experiences with therapists and conversations and things. So Raylene, you let me know if you down.
You know I'm game.
Right.
I'm game. So you let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. But we have to wrap up our conversation because you have to go to school.
Oh, geez, yeah, I gotta do stuff too. Okay.
I know, right?
I'm like, oh yeah, I got things. Okay.
Time flies when you're talking to Diana.
does. I love these chats so much. They
It
just
goes
bring
so
us so much
fast.
energy and exuberance for all things psychology and mental health and
Yes.
self-care and self-love and
All the things.
all the things. I'm
All
so
the
grateful.
things.
The little.
Right? All right, y'all. It has been an amazing conversation. It has been an amazing stream as per usual. It's the baby's time to shine.
Yes.
Kairu, say what you wanted to say, baby.
Tell 'em.
Oh, that was
We're listening.
right. Just he's
I'm listening.
is it the feet? No?
Oh, look at those feet. Oh,
Feet.
look at those feet. Oh, I got a thing for baby feet. That's
Right. We are listening. Okay, so apparently he's feeling silent right now. That's okay. It has been a wonderful conversation, y'all. I love you all so much. Thank you for tuning in. For everyone who participated in the chat. Oh, really quickly, you gotta say bye to DJ. Because you know he gonna look. DJ, the stream's ending. He gonna come up here and be like, but I wasn't here.
They didn't say bye to me in the chat.
I know, right? DJ. But I appreciate you all for everyone that, like I said, participated in the chat. For everyone that just popped in and lurked and didn't say a word, I appreciate you all. As always, Diana, thank you for being here. She gonna be back every Wednesday, y'all. Y'all ain't got a choice. We gonna
Seriously. So
Yeah.
if you don't like it,
right. Next week we gonna for sure talk about guilt and shame. Purchase that merches, absolutely. I'm telling everybody in the chat they gotta say bye to you.
Yes.
So far we got Raylene. If
Thank you, Miss Doña, for creating this space for us to chat about these things. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And thank you for your comment.
absolutely. I love y'all all so much. Have a beautiful day. I'll be back tomorrow. Diana will be back next Wednesday. Jones says bye. See you later. See ya.
Bye, y'all.
Cheeky
It's
Thomas.
see ya.
Cheeky really.
Oh my goodness. I don't know what cheeky is.
Thomas.
Cheeky. Cheeky, y'all.
Cheeky.
Okay.
Cheeky
Who's
spot.
watching UK TV?
Cheeky spot.
Somebody. I don't know.
Somebody.
He watches a lot of like Thomas the Train Engine stuff, so maybe there's somebody there from the UK.
Okay.
I appreciate. I know, right? I appreciate y'all so much.
Then Lincoln this up.
Lincoln, you gotta say bye, otherwise DJ's gonna flip a table. Later, Gator. Later, Gator.
Later. Cheeky.
Bye, y'all.
Cheeky Diana.
Cheeky DJ.
Cheeky. Cheeky. Actually, you know what? We're gonna raid into somebody. Let me see who's on really quickly. Also on Twitchinator. Let's raid into who's this? It's oh so fabulous.
I'm a name.
Not cheeky. So
Lincoln, please say bye to
rating
me.
is when we like it's like you kind of transfer your stream to somebody else's. I'm gonna go to TK because I don't know what he's doing. So I like transition into someone else's stream. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. Okay.
Lincoln doesn't bye to me yet.
I know. I think Lincoln's busy. He might be working. All right. So we're gonna raid into TK. For those of you that are here, thank you for being here. If you catch this replay on YouTube, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and give this video a thumbs up like. It's a great free way to support my channel if you're interested.
Thank you. Please say bye to me or else.
Or else. If you would like to support me in ways that require money, my shop link is everywhere. It's all over my page. It's here in the chat. We're going to raid into TK. Diana, you ain't got to go, but I'm ending the stream. So, have a wonderful day, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye. Let me hang up.
Oh, you got to press that one.
Okay, let me press right now.
Press it.
Oh, little man. You made it all the way.
Now I'm
Okay,
press.
and now, end stream. End stream.